everyone, how are you? I'm Tom Carlisle. I lead cloud innovation at Diversified, and we're here to talk to you about modernizing decentralized production.
I'm Steve Southern. I'm the Director of Innovation Development for Diversified.
And Dustin Provorst, I'm the Innovation DevOps Architect.
Steve, would you like to start off by talking about what we mean by decentralized production?
Sure, absolutely. So as the industry is evolving, we're seeing that production facilities need to be a little bit more flexible. So what we've been doing recently is we've been trying to move all of the production capabilities that we possibly can into a cloud environment. That provides the greatest amount of flexibility for end users and being able to maximize their resources.
There we go. So modernizing decentralized production. Oh, we got one slide, didn't get the second one. There we go. So how are we aligning with change?
So as far as why we're doing this, how we're adjusting, software is the future. We all know that, and I can't tell you how many people have said we're never going to build another production control room, we're never going to build another master control. And as a systems integrator who builds master control and production control rooms, that's significant. So what we're doing is we're building our cloud expertise. How many architects do we have on staff now?
We've got about 10 on staff now. By the end of beginning of summer, we'll have 50. By the end of the year, we expect basically everyone in our company that's an engineer or a solutions architect will have certification. This is how serious we're taking with the cloud at Diversified.
So as the industry embraces the cloud and virtualization paradigm, we're beefing up not only our cloud expertise, but our development team as well. We're growing the development team. We're really moving toward a true DevOps culture in what we're doing.
Why does our industry need this solution? So you can see it over the booth over here. What takes months for us to build a production environment on a physical way? When we move to a virtual layer, we want that to be a more expedient experience for you so that you're building your environment, you're working with your environment, you're monetizing your environment, you are building channels, you're rolling the infrastructure out. Previous to COVID, prior to COVID, we've never had that ability. Everything was always one set of physical infrastructure. We build a control room, build a master control, build another control room, feed that to the master control. Right now, what you see in our week is it took 3 engineers 3 weeks to build a cloud environment in 3 different regions across 2 different cloud vendors. We've got intercom from Telos. We've got audio mixing capabilities from SSL. Our audio flows are from Daunting. Our vision mixer on one region is CQ Live, and the other one is Grass-Valley's AMP product. We've got multi-views in both regions as tag. And prior to this, we would take months to be able to get this thing built because the services were not available. And when we did get it built, it really didn't look that good. It took us 3 weeks to build that. That's still too short or too long of a time for us. We need to be able to stand up this infrastructure in a few hours or a couple of days, get it running, and start doing production on this environment. And that's a big piece of why we need to move forward. On top of that, a lot of you probably have 2110 environments in your production control room. You've been told that 2110 does not work in the cloud. I'm here to tell you today that it actually does. Right now in our booth, we're moving multicast flows between 2 different regions in AWS and having no problem with that because we're using a product that actually supports moving 2110. That's or in this case, compressed flows and multicast flows between these 2 environments. And if I had a PTP master clock in my CPR, I could actually propagate that PTP clock across multiple regions as well, moving both compressed and uncompressed frames across the video across that. I can also do timing with Daunting and move that from those frames across the environment as well. That project is by a company called Switch.io, which is over there with a big X on top of it. I advise you to go talk to them and understand that a little bit more. So the problem, because of why we're doing this is because our industry is moving in this direction. As a systems integrator, we need to move in that direction as well and build this infrastructure and be experts in this infrastructure to support you, our clients. So how are we building decentralized production environments?
So that starts to get into the tricky part of it, right? Like, as we all know, it's like we've been doing this hardware work for years and installing black boxes, doing the connectivity, doing the setup. And moving up to these environments is very similar. It's just a different set of skill sets. Like now you're dealing with cloud architects, you're dealing with network engineers. One of the big things we have to worry about is obviously the security aspect of this, right? So many of these media networks that we're all used to have been offline air gap systems for years. Now we're bringing these things to the cloud environment. So, and helping with, the automation and deployment, we have to make sure that we do that in a secure way. So we have to make sure that we're able to patch these environments. You can no longer install a device, forget about it for 2 years, right? 3 years till you do an upgrade because it's off the network. Now these things have to get patches quickly. So there's a lot of work that we're doing behind the scenes here, like in building with the infrastructure, at an enterprise grade to make sure that we scale, provide that layer of security back into the systems, key rotations, all of that. And also making sure that, we can help account for costs of that stuff, right? Being able to actually scale resources up, scale them down when we're not using them. So.
Yeah. So when you approach us on an engineering side and say, hey, we want to move architecture into the cloud, the first step is everything we have built over there follows a well-architected review. It hits all the tenets of what AWS and GCP require for it to be architected appropriately. But our question, once the engineering or the CTO or someone comes and talks to us, is who is your CISO and who's responsible for data security in your environment? Because that's going to be our next conversation. Before we spec anything else out, we want to make sure that we're adhering to the rules that your company adheres to have secure data environments, because we're moving media from an on-prem environment into a cloud environment. We want to make sure that every step of the way we're in compliance with your needs. So that's our second step. And then we start designing and deploying the environments. We don't wait till later to do it, but we also spend a lot of time to figure out what needs to be there in place as an initial framework before we then dial it in to match what your environment requires. So when can the industry expect to leverage new innovation?
The target for what we're working on right now, we're expecting to be available at IBC in September. We are going to be opening up a pilot program to some select clients and vendors so that we can get some real-time feedback on what we're building, make sure it's the right thing so that we're not spinning our wheels, wasting time on things that don't matter to the people who are going to be using it. We're really excited over the next 6 to 12 months to see what we can do with this.
So how are we partnering with our vendors?
So we're able to partner with vendors in a new way that we really haven't up till this point. We're working with them on a development level, on a DevOps level. So we're actually working to help them develop their product in a better way so that it can integrate with our product in a better way. We want to be able to leverage the advantage that the cloud provides. So instead of building just a simple lift and shift and moving an application, a monolithic application into the cloud, we really want to try to build things in a microservices manner so that you can scale up and scale down as necessary.
So while we have some time here, do you guys want to talk a little bit high level about what the product is going to be able to do, all the different pieces and tenets of that product?
Yeah. So it's essentially from the framework of this thing, like we have the ability to deploy, in your environment, whether that's Amazon, GCP, Oracle, on-prem, we don't really care. The architecture of the back end from our side has always been developed cloud agnostic. It just runs basically on top of Kubernetes so that we get to scale in the architecture, and the security from that aspect. So, but when we generate deployments and stuff, and this is back to working with the vendors, like one of the issues that we have today, one of the weaknesses is a lot of these applications that have been shifted to the cloud, it was always the same thing even after the shift. So it was always basically a matter of, you install the application, comes with a script, you install the application. Once you actually get the application running, you still need an operator to sit down and then do all that configuration. Like you still have to get into the software, put everything into it. It's a very manual process. So we're working alongside the vendors from that aspect to develop APIs from our side that we can work with those vendors to, adopt into their components. So that way they're standard across the board. And that should allow us to, be able to get more granular with these deployments. So that way users can create templates and adjust your media flows. How many endpoints do you need in? Where are they going? What's the configuration? Bit rates, the whole 9 yards. Basically anything that we would have access to and config, we want to be able to deploy that at runtime. So that way you guys can build these templates, that utilize any of the different vendor applications, not specific to, one or the other, and then bring those together, meld them together at runtime to put that environment back the exact way you need it. And then we can take that down, leave it offline for a couple of days, bring it back.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. So whenever we talk about the automation piece of it, it's kind of a 3-step process. One, we're going to automate the building of the environment. Number 2, we want to automate the installation of the software that you're going to be using. Number 3, we want to automate the configuration. And that is wholly dependent on the level of the APIs that we have access to. So that's where we really want to work with our vendor partners to make sure that they can give us as much flexibility as possible in an automated fashion.
And then we have a third tier on there where it talks about, so these are all monolithic or containerized services that are being sold to you, or you're buying a subscription model to have on your production environments. We're also working with a lot of vendors out here that have SaaS solutions. So what we're trying to apply for you is one pane of glass to not only manage your media production environment, but throughout your entire media supply chain from glass to glass. So the idea is that if once you've gotten done with the production and you're streaming something out, it needs to go to a master control. If the master control is something like GVAMP, great. Still a containerized environment that's running on EC2 instances in AWS or machine instances on GCP. If your master control or your channel delivery or your media smoothing technology is supplied by another vendor that's out here that runs as a fully SaaS solution, and they have an API-driven framework that we can grab onto, we will integrate that into the platform as well. So your company logs in with your SSO. You launch your production environments, but depending on what your role is, maybe you're a master control operator or you're responsible for channel monitoring. When you log in, you're going to see the channel delivery side based on the vendors you're currently using, and you're going to have an API the API will allow you to control how you spin up, spin down, and change channels. The same thing will happen for fast channels. If you're wanting to spin up a fast channel that runs for a month or 2 months, or something that's going to be a long-term fast channel, utilizing archive material that you already have, we'll be able to control that as well. Anything that has an API, we will be able to control inside the platform. Again, we don't want you to have to log out of what we're doing and then log into someone else's platform and do the work. We want you to log in once and have access across your entire media supply chain. If you need to spin up edit rooms, so I came from Blackmagic before I came to Diversified, and I worked very heavily on the DaVinci Resolve product and a lot of cloud-based workflows. If you want to spin up a multi-user collaborative edit environment, you're able to do that through the platform. You can do that same thing with Adobe, where you go in, you have a unified database, and you can control, because everything that we have in AWS, GCP, and Azure, and Tata, and everywhere else has APIs for us to script and control these workflows.
Yeah, and kind of piggybacking off that is from the vendor perspective, the other component we're working on there is not only those APIs, but it's also developing pipelines directly to our vendor products, so that way, as they're developing security patches, so as we're finding 0 days in the environment, things like that, we want to be able to get those out into the environment as quickly as possible from our side. So that requires, today is a lot of manual intervention, to do that. You're relying on people to, get it, download it, test it, the whole 9 yards. But from here, it's with those pipelines in place, we should be able to receive, patches weekly, daily, bring those in, run them through UAT testing, get them out into the production environments as quickly as possible to, help keep the environments as secure as we can.
What about security and monitoring and compliance? What technologies are we looking at for that?
So the back end that we've built framework for across all the environments is Datadog. So they're tied in holistically to pretty much everything that we're doing. So we're looking at SCIEM, we're looking at APM, or, you name it, we're watching it from that aspect. And then that also gives us the ability to watch cloud costing, things like that. But we're treating it as a third party. So a lot of that's being audited on that side, if need be. And then on the security component side of it, we're partnering with outside trusted security partners that are managing all of our security testing and suites. So they develop and maintain, and keep us basically at the latest security tests and stuff like that in the environment. Our teams do day-to-day development, push code into that environment, and get.
And the most important part of this entire platform is cost monitoring and estimation. So, Steve, you want to talk about how we do cost monitoring and estimation on your environment?
Yep. So when it comes to moving things to the cloud, we've been told that we're going to be able to save money by moving to the cloud. And great, that's wonderful. How much is it going to cost us? Usually the answer is, we don't know. It depends. So what we're trying to do is we're working with each of the vendors and the cloud providers and gathering as much of that data as we possibly can so that we can present it to the end users whenever they build a template based on whatever products that they're selecting for their production. Each one of those vendors can provide at least book pricing. If you have specific pricing that's unique to the end user, we can talk about that over at the booth. But what we want to do is want to be able to give an estimation with a reasonable amount of accuracy as to what it's actually going to cost for that production based on the duration and the products that you've selected. Can we end early?
Yeah, of course. So if you have any questions, please, we got a few minutes here. More than happy to field any questions that you might have.
We've answered all their questions.
That's fantastic. So we'll be taking orders right around the corner here for the product. So if you'd like to, please come join us over in the booth over here, and we'll sit down. We can walk you through all the different phases, including some things we didn't talk about today. Yes. TJ, hit me. Thanks, TJ.
So are there particular customer segments or types that are gravitating toward the cloud types based solutions that you're providing? Just curious. I mean, and what are some of those factors that, make the value proposition you're bringing to the table, resonate with those customers? Just curious.
So if you compare box to box, I buy a box or I build one in the cloud, the box you bought and put in your data center is going to win price wise every time. But if you take in the cost of your data center and your staffing and the paper in the bathrooms and the soap and the lunches everyone has and the electricity bill and the gas bill and all that, guarantee you can find cheaper savings in the cloud environment. The big one that we see as a driver on this is we have clients coming to us every day saying, I'm never going to build another control room again physically. I don't have space, and my company doesn't want to expand and give me more room. That has been a giant driver for us to start looking at cloud-based technologies in order to start building production control rooms. That and people need to scale and monetize content faster now than they literally ever had in the history of our industry. We have more content online right now than we have ever had, and more is being generated daily. Every day, that number goes up and is bigger than it was the day before, and it's only going to increase. There's a YouTuber named Mr. Beast. He did $700 million. And I have people out here telling me, hey, the broadcast needs to figure out another way to monetize and do broadcast. I'm sorry, they already did. We need to catch up with them at this point. And they're using this technology every day. They're using decentralized workflows. They're using shared and collaborative workflows to do their work. They're sourcing from the best, not the best operator in town, the best operator in the country. So if I have a production and I need the best TD I can get, if they're not in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but they are available in Los Angeles, California, I can hire them and put them on a production tomorrow. And we can do it with the technology we currently have running over here. And we are seeing these all three big name, three-letter name of broadcasters, they're doing it today. We've had almost every Canadian broadcaster come through. We have European broadcasters come through. They all are moving in one way or another to cloud-based infrastructure and technologies because they know this is how the future of the industry is going. We're always going to have something on-prem. There's always cameras and encoders. There's always going to be people involved in one way or another. But the technology is moving up into the cloud so that we can now better utilize our staff and can better control our costs. That's a big piece of it. We're all good. Hey, thanks everyone for coming out. Appreciate your time. Please hang out with us over here.